Howdy folks, and welcome to this replay Ships, which we're currently playing as the Independence class aircraft carrier. So looking at the actual map itself at the bottom right of the screen, you'll see that we actually have various different people in different positions. We got some destroyers, we got some battleships, we got some cruisers. Let's actually have a look at where we actually stand here properly. So let's try to get into the map mode on here. So we've of course got our help screens here. We can actually go through the various different bits and bobs on there. But really what I want to focus in on is the ability to look at the actual map. Alright, so we see on the map itself that I've basically sent out my bomber first, which was the first one to become ready and able to fly off. I'm then going to send off my actual fighters as well. So I got a configuration of 2 fighters, 1 bomber. Let's just zoom in a little bit and see where my bombers are heading. So they're flying over here towards the center of the map. I'm going to keep the bomber fairly central initially, but as you'll see on the map here, I've got 2 sets of actual torpedo bombers coming in. They apparently noticed me coming in, so they're going to be retreating here. Let me just zoom in on number 2 a little bit. And I'll be engaging them here shortly. You should see the tail camera here. I was trying to engage them. Now actually I got intercepted by a bunch of fighters, so I'm actually engaging the fighters first. Now let's just switch back to map mode. So destroyed the actual fighters here. My second set of fighters in the meantime has been able to get in the air and is in the midst of intercepting a group of torpedo bombers. I'm trying to intercept the other batch, so I'm trying to take all of them out as quickly as I can. Do bear in mind, in the meantime I'm trying to basically position my own aircraft carrier behind the island at the north side of the map, as you can see. And whilst I've been doing all of this, I noticed significant more bombers flying around. So in actual fact I'm going to try to focus on these torpedo bombers here, because they pose the biggest threat to some of our ships here. Now during the course of this particular game, you'll notice that I unfortunately won't have any ship kills, but I will have a significant number of aircraft kills. So as you can see, I already stand at 9 kills in terms of aircrafts I took out. And again, I'm basically trying to use all my fighters here just to help clear the skies of any threats for our team's ships. Okay. Now even though I'm running low on ammunition on some of them, I'm still engaging as many of the aircrafts as I can. Oh, I'm saying low. I'm not even halfway through, but it's lower than having a full load. I'm trying to engage their fighters here. Whittling down the fighters of course makes the operation of our bombers and so forth a lot smoother. Alright, we destroyed that fighter. Let's try to engage the extra fighter there. So the advantage of having 2 sets of fighters in the air is of course you can basically have 1 fighter in one position, 1 other fighter in another position. I'm just going to replenish the 1 fighter squadron here. At the moment we stand at 17 kills. Pretty decent. So in terms of what our team is doing, they're trying to basically prevent the enemy from capping both the inner circle as well as the outer circles. So ships are operating in that particular area. If we look at the actual tab here, you see at the moment we stand in a position where we've killed a single, and they've also killed a single ship. We've killed one of their cruisers, they've killed one of our, I guess it's a cruiser as well. Anyways, I see significantly more of those torpedo bombers coming in. I send my fighter slightly forward to try to intercept them. I'm getting fired upon by surface ships, so I'm going to basically pull back a little bit. I'm trying to keep my carrier in the meantime really up north. Unfortunately I'm basically ramming the northern island, so I'm going to have to reverse in a second. Right, so the bombers are getting closer. I was distracted a little bit by running into the island, but I'm going to have to send my fighters back in, at least my 1 fighter squadron I've got here. And in the meantime I'm also sending my bomber in to basically intercept that battleship. Setting it ablaze. Actually a double hit on there, pretty decent. I thought I was going to be able to intercept the bombers, but I was Yeah, intercepted by one of their fighter squadrons, which, yeah, okay. And I noticed another fighter squadron coming in. Just going to see if I can intercept it maybe. Now, in actual fact, I do notice that on the east side of the map, as you can see, there are more bombers operating. Okay, so we got dive bombers as well as torpedo bombers heading towards one of our cruisers there. My second squadron of actual fighters has just replenished and is become airborne again. So we're sending our own fighters to try to intercept their bombers, whether those are actual dive bombers or more the torpedo bombers. Any of them should be intercepted really. And because of course I got two squadrons, I can actually cover both flanks like I mentioned earlier. So I'm basically sending the second squadron to support that battleship, which is in the center of the map at the moment. Okay, so destroyed one of the actual targets here with my my air group. Let's just briefly zoom in on there. Again, I was engaging their fighters, shut them down, and of course that basically brings me to a position where I can now start looking for additional targets. Now, I do need to replenish. I've lost one of my fighters in that squadron, but I've also reduced my actual ammunition supply. So I'm heading back to replenish, like I said. My bomber in the meantime has replenished itself. There's new bombs on board, rearmed. So I'm going to send it out in a second towards a target of opportunity. First thing I typically start off by doing is whenever I basically get an aircraft airborne, I basically aim it at one of my own ships to have kind of like a waypoint towards which to fly. If it's closer to the enemy, just the better. If it's not, then yeah, so be it. So at the moment we've got 21 kills in terms of fighters, or at least planes I should say. And we're going to try to increase that number by basically intercepting more of their fighters and bombers. Let's briefly zoom in on what's going on here. As you can see, we're actually taking out these fighters relatively quickly, relatively easily. It's all to do with the fact that we got different spec of planes. We are using, I believe, the Wildcats. Let me just hover the mouse cursor over these. It's the Wildcats. It doesn't say on screen at the moment, does it? I thought it's the Wildcats anyways. I'm tracing down these torpedo bombers here, and in the meantime you should have noticed that my own bomber has actually been able to hit the battleship on the western side of the map. And whilst chasing those bombers here, I observed the position of their carrier. Carriers typically got pretty good anti-aircraft fire, so what I'll do, I'll head back from there. I don't want to have too severe losses, so I'm basically making my way away from them. But at least I'm aware now of where their actual carrier is and where their planes will be coming from. Now they do have, of course, two carriers. So I shouldn't just be focusing on the one area. I need to be aware of the second area as well, just in case they send maybe some bombers our way. So as you'll see, my own carrier is heading towards the island in sector C8. There's a second carrier here near me. If we look at the actual type of that carrier, that is a Zuiho, and the enemy team's got the same type of carrier, plus they also got a Ryuyu. Not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but they got Japanese carriers, and I got, or at least our team's got one Japanese carrier and of course an American carrier. Typically I've noticed that the Japanese carriers have got better bombers, better dive bombers as well as torpedo bombers, whereas the Americans got better fighters. That's the experience I've had thus far with this. Now I'm sending my second squadron here to chase their fighter squadron, and as you will notice that there is no anti-aircraft fire coming from that battleship that is just in the south center there. So that's fortunate. It really means I can focus in on trying to take down their planes. Okay, then if I look at the center of the map, I see there's a squadron of their bombers, which most likely came from their second carrier. I'm going to try to intercept it with my own fighters here. My squadron number 2 is at the moment fighting their fighter squadron. So squadron number 3 is going to be focusing on the bombers there. In the meantime, we've reached a total of 26 kills, 26 plane kills. And in the meantime, my own bomber again hits for one of their battleships. I just lost it from view. Now, because we dominate most of the eastern side of the map, I'm basically sending my carrier towards the island, really in the center on the east side of the map. Fighters of ours are still, well, one of them is actually heading back towards our own aircraft carrier. The second one is trying to intercept those bombers that the enemy has sent out. We're going to be just a little bit too late, I suspect. We hit their battleship once again. And of course we are taking down some of their fighters. Actually we destroyed one of their targets. But if we actually look at what's happening here, the other carrier we have on our team has unfortunately caught fire, which means that they cannot land any of their planes at the moment. Now, whilst my second squadron is landing, my third squadron is trying to chase down those bombers, and actually was able to take down the entire squadron. Squadron number 2, like I said, is rearming. Squadron 3 is providing air support, trying to intercept all possible bombers, fighters, you name it. Our own bomber is in the meantime landing once again, and our second squadron should be ready to go airborne in a couple of seconds. Alright, it's about to take off, and as you can see, I've actually focused on our own battleship on the southern side of the map, because I know that the carriers were operating from the southern side of the map originally. I think it makes sense for us to provide support there. Now, unfortunately, if you look at the actual center of the map at the moment, those capture rings, those have slowly started filling up with the color red, which indicates that the enemy, of course, is in the midst of capturing it. Squadron number 3 is getting fired upon. Typically an indicator there's a ship nearby, which in this instance is their carrier. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a distance away from their carrier to get out of their anti-aircraft range if possible. I did lose one of the fighters there. And I've got my bomber back in the air. Oh, good thing I sent my fighters north, because now I can actually start intercepting this set of torpedo bombers. So I'm trying to intercept that torpedo bomber, and I'm also going to send out my second squadron in a minute. But I'm nicely intercepting the various different bombers here. Taking us up to 32 kills airborne here. Perfect. Again, our fighters are engaging them. We're taking down more and more of their fighters, or their bombers I should probably say. So squadron number 3 is engaging one of their bomber squadrons, and squadron number 2 is now engaging yet another one. There's more torpedo bombers coming in, so the fact that we of course are providing air cover here is helping immensely. Trying to again provide more support here for the actual ships on the surface. Unfortunately, they were able to launch a set of torpedoes here. Not really too well aimed, so that's good. We took out one of their squadrons here, and we're now focusing in on the final squadron here, which just fired some more torpedoes towards our battleships there. Really poorly aimed, but yeah, okay. Zooming out again. So it looks like we have provided sufficient cover here for the battleship at the bottom of the circle, cap circle. At the moment we stand on relatively equal footing, or we did just a second ago, but one of their ships has just been taken out by a fire initiated by one of our own ships. So that leaves us in a 5 versus 4 position now. Now, they still got one battleship, one cruiser and 2 carriers. Because I've been providing so much air support, I'm not too concerned about the actual carriers themselves. We of course do need to be cautious. Need to make sure we got something back in reserve in case they do have still some fighters, or some bombers I should probably say, that might go after ourselves in our carrier. So let's have a look at where we end up now going next. Now I do notice that of course both the battleship as well as the cruiser are up north, so I'm going to change my course slightly. I'm setting a course for, well, as you can see at the moment it's a bit too northeast, but in reality that's only what's happening on the map. In reality I've actually set a course towards the circle. I'm going to try to capture that center circle, or at least assist in that process. I do notice that there is another dive bomber there. Okay. They were able to hit our ship, I think. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to basically intercept them where I can. And we did take them out, or actually the ship took them out. So we're still standing at 49 kills at present. Our own bomber has been able to hit again one of their ships. Alright, interesting. Okay. So at this point I do believe that we're actually noticing everything going a little bit slower. So just to change the map view slightly, and as you can see we're nicely capturing the various circles. I'll just sped up the replay slightly as well. Alright, we're still standing in a favorable position here, so at the moment it is 5 versus 3. Their battleship was taken out. They still have one cruiser and of course 2 carriers left. Relatively central on the map here. Let me just zoom out briefly. So if I look at what's going on here, we got that battleship moving here, and they've got their carrier moving towards that island as well. Now in a minute we will notice that there is going to be some nice interaction between those two. Who's going to win? Is it going to be the battleship, or is it going to be the carrier? Okay, their carrier just avoids running into the island itself. I got the impression that the actual carriers are able to move a bit quicker than the battleships themselves. But what's going to happen in a second? Who's going to run into whom? Are they going to run into each other or not? So I'm just keeping the view focused on here. The battleship is able to fire its guns at the carrier. Nice bit of fireworks there. But it looks like the actual carrier was trying to ram the battleship. It looks like in this instance it says that the battleship was actually ramming the aircraft carrier. So it looks like the ramming of the aircraft carrier of the battleships led to the aircraft carrier being lost. Right, we're not sure where the final ship is, the final carrier, so I'm trying to send out my fighters to basically do a bit of reconnoitering, and it actually pays off. In the northwest of the map here, you'll observe that we have found the enemy's carrier. We've been able to take out a further airplane in the meantime. So we stand at 50 kills there in terms of airplanes. In reality, the carrier that they've got poses no significant threat towards the rest of our teams. So I'm changing course slightly to try to head it a bit more towards them, towards the carrier. I have some of my bombers there that way as well. Try to see if I can actually do something about destroying them. It's going to be a little bit of a slow one, it looks like. Alright, let's see what we can get here. Zoomed out a little bit. We do actually notice that the carrier is there. It looks like we're actually gaining quite a bit of points here. Will I be able to make it? I'm not too sure. It looks like we actually win this. Alright, so let's have a look at the post-battle results. So we basically gained almost 203,000 silver here. 31,500 experience, plus of course the various different medals, 50 airplanes killed and so forth. Now we got to be in second place here, even though we didn't kill any ships at all. We still killed most fighters, 50 to be precise, which ultimately put us in this nice position. Now further results here, all the damage dealt and so forth. If you do like what you saw here today, please consider subscribing, and of course also click the like button if you liked the video. Otherwise, just give me some comments on what you actually perceived of or thought of the game. Final bits of experience here, and of course the gold earned listed on the screen as well. See you on the next one. Bye bye.